The weird thing is that now that I'm little again, her boobs look like the teats of a giantess and make me even more horny. When she put her nipple in my mouth last night, the idea of being treated like an infant really grossed me out. When she nursed me before putting me to bed, all my desire for her tits returned in spades. I guess I got my wish, but it was one hell of a surprise. Then her milk started flowing and I totally lost it. When her nipple got erect, it filled my entire mouth. If she nurses me again today, I don't know what I'll do. God knows I want it, but I'll probably come in my diaper if she does it. I'm not going to fight it the way I did last night. If she wants to nurse me, then I'm her babe. Oh, she's bending down to pick me up. Damn. I hate being picked up by my armpits. She's holding me next to her chest again. Jesus. Her boobs are bigger than my chest. Damn, it's comfortable being carried by her. Oh. We're going to the rocking chair. Does that mean what I think? God. This is heaven. She's holding me next to her huge breasts and patting my diapered bottom. What is she doing? Oh God. She's going to breastfeed me again. She's unbuttoning her blouse. Dear God, I don't think my heart can stand it. I'm having palpitations. Look at the size of her boob. Jesus. It's enormous. It's almost as big as my head. Oh, she's stroking my cheek with her nipple. My head is turning towards her boob automatically. No, this isn't what I wanted. I just wanted a little titty before I fucked her. I don't want to be suckled like a baby. Oh, God. I can't stop my head. Oh dear Jesus, my mouth is going for her tit. Her aureola must be half the size of my face. No. Thomas's mouth took in her nipple instinctively and began to voraciously suckle Mary's teat. As the thin, sweet milk filled his mouth with warmth, he began to drowse again and slip back into slumber. He drained one teat and then the other in less than 10 minutes, and woke as Mary held him across her lap and tenderly winded him. She brought him back to the changing station and held him down with one hand while she reached down to his sock drawer and brought forth a pair of white cotton socks with matching fluffy little white pom-poms stitched to the toes. In a thrice, she worked the clean socks over his tiny feet and laid him back in his crib to sleep until it was time for her baby to get up. When he awoke again, Thomas was wet. He whimpered a bit in discomfort until Mary appeared in the doorway of the nursery. He got on his hands and knees and crept to the side of the crib to call out for Mary when she appeared in the doorway. At that moment, his bowels decided to loose themselves and he dumped prodigiously in his didy and emitted a huge fart. Mary came to the side of the crib and looked down with a mother's smile of satisfaction with her baby's timely bowel movements. Good, she thought, I was so afraid that yesterday's the excitement would make him constipated. Babies' digestive tracts are such finicky things that one can never be absolutely sure. Tiny baby farts escaped his behind, making little popping noises between the passing of each loose stool. The back of Thomas's diaper began filling with a yellowish-brown muck that had the consistency of pudding. Is Bobby going poo-poo for mommy? She asked redundantly, patting his head condescendingly over the rail of the crib. Thomas whimpered again as he pooped once more into the steadily filling diaper. Mary patted his head again affectionately. She had no intention of changing him until he was done dumping in his didy. She had learned early on in Bobby's infancy that to change him too soon after a bowel movement was to invite another eruption from his nether regions and cause her the double duty of changing him again in a few minutes. I'll change him when he's finished making his poopy, she thought to herself as she watched his face redden as his abdomen contracted and pushed the last stool from his rear end. He looks like he's almost done, but I'll give him a few more minutes to make sure, she thought to herself as a temporary look of relief came over Thomas's face. His bottom is protected with diaper cream, so there's no hurry. She went over to the changing station and took out one of the pacifiers that was stored in the clear acrylic jar that stood next to the container of baby powder. She stuck it in his mouth and went to the rocking chair to await his final poop of the series she was sure wasn't finished. A few minutes later, his gut exploded with a long, sonorous fart that echoed from the walls of the room. His intestinal tract was unused to a diet consisting solely of mother's milk, hence the gaseous production that led to his bubbling behind. Mary took the last sound as a signal that he was finished and took him back to the changing station on the dresser to change his diaper. She took off his socks first to keep his poopy diaper from soiling them, then quickly changed him, dressing him in a diaper only for the warm spring morning. Then she carried him out the living room to let him amuse himself in his playpen while she cleaned house. Thomas lay on his back watching Mary through the semi-transparent mesh walls of his playpen. He sucked his thumb idly and wondered if she would ever get over her madness and remember who he really was. In the long run, she'd have to realize that something was wrong in the next month or two when he failed to grow like a normal infant. Unless the rational part of her mind had gone on a permanent vacation, she would soon have to come to the conclusion that something was very wrong indeed with her baby. In the meantime, Thomas reflected, there was nothing he could do about it but wait. Thomas looked at his knees that had drawn themselves up to his chest and marveled at the flexibility of his baby legs. When he took one of his feet in his hands to examine it, he discovered that he could bring his foot all the way to his face effortlessly. A sudden urge to suck his big toe hit him, and before he knew it, his digit was engulfed by his lips as it was drawn into his mouth. Boredom overtook him as it had the day before, and he fell asleep in the playpen lying on his back. When he awoke, it was time for his noon feeding, and Mary had already taken him from the playpen to sit on her lap. A few minutes later, he found himself laying on her lap with as she opened her blouse and unfastened her nursing bra. In seconds, he was suckling at her teat. Suckling had become so natural to over the 2 days that he had come home that Thomas that hardly thought about the unnaturalness of being breastfed 3 times a day by his ex-wife. The thought of being weaned and separated from Mary's nutritious bounty made him quake in anticipatory fear. Without teeth, he couldn't eat, and there was no one else to take care of him save his ex-wife. He was absolutely helpless unless some took charge of his life and cared for his every need. Since his mother had died, there was no one left who had ever cared for him but Mary. When Mary changed his soiled diaper later in the day, she was pleasantly surprised that Bobby's messy diaper was almost odorless again. Mary decided that he must have gotten over his intestinal infection since his diet hadn't changed. Unknown to her, Thomas's milk diet had almost completely replaced the remnants of solid food that remained in his intestine. If Mary's mind had been whole, she would have realized that the baby food that Thomas's mother had fed him a few days before was the cause of his previous reeking diaper. By the next day, his feces would have virtually no odor whatsoever, as the last vestiges of baby food were flushed from his system by Mary's milk.